Hey guys, and welcome to the Igloo today. And today we're going to be talking about Conan Exiles and getting right into it with everything else. Now, I've noticed that 90% of my audience is not been subscribed at all, so make sure you hit the subscribe button and hit the bell notification on top of it, especially if you enjoy any of this content. And I've been going to be having a poll up when it comes to like the whole process that I've been working on. So my three pillars that I've been trying to focus on now more than anything else is that I will be doing Conan Exiles, some Fallout 76 news, and a few other things that could be on the back burner that I might have in planned. And then also 3D printing, because currently I have a plumb bob in the works, and I also want to get these things going. And I also like having as a project for making PCs and stuff. So again, if you like that kind of stuff, subscribe, leave a like, turn on bell notifications, because YouTube has completely changed after 2020, and there's a lot of different changes when it comes to it. So I'm going to be going and covering like all of Conan when it comes to these type of principles, and that's because I have on my main account like 3,000 hours of gameplay, and I think, and there's a lot of other people that have more or to equal of that are longtime veterans. Flyhack is one of them that plays a lot. He versus a lot of other people, and it just goes on from there. Firespark, he's a tutorialist, and he also runs his own server. These are two people that are more into the environment than what I am of as of late. But when it comes to the principles of the design, it really comes down to this. So it's going to come down to power leveling, pathfinding, and routing when it comes to farming and making sure that you know the most efficient route, and then also building. So I put it down to these three core values when it comes to it, and building comes with defense and also offense, and that is on how you design a building and everything else. And again, it comes down to the three videos that I will be making as a complete injunction of what to do in Conan Exiles on top of everything else. So the three pillars: power leveling, which we'll be covering today. So power leveling is something that a lot of people are still having a hard time grasping when it comes to Conan Exiles, especially because it could take a long time if you don't do the process correct. And this is very important when it comes to it. Now, it's been a long established feature that setting up journey points and getting every single journey attribute, journey points, and making sure you get everything else done is one of the quickest EXP areas that you can do to get to the highest level. We know this. Follow your journey steps, make sure you do them on tandem and you complete every single one so that you can get the most amount of XP so that you can, in essence, get to the highest that you can. But it also has tied to the point that you need to do a few specific things in order to help your progress. And because it is a little bit harder to kill NPCs to get everything else done, especially if you don't have legendary weapons initially or you have a clan helping you. This is mainly predominantly for the solo player that is coming on to Conan Exiles. They just bought the game. They heard Mounts is actually here after 2 years about them advertising, and they made some fatal decisions, and they apologized for it on top of that multiple times. So when you are going to level up and you just initially start your character, you may pretty much get as many journey points as possible. You do your jump, you do your climb, you do everything else. You're going to swim, you're going to kill some creatures, you're going to skin the creatures, but you're going to make your way to get the chests in order for you to get everything else accomplished. Now, when you are doing this accomplishment feat, pretty much the easiest way to get a actual thrall follower is to make sure that you go and you buy a slave. You're pretty much buying slaves at this point so that you can have a follower. You are only able to have one follower on top of everything else when it comes down to it. Once you have that, you got to make sure that you have not only that, but also a bedroll and a few other things so that it can be way easier for you to do. The next thing is to acquire legendary weapons as quickly and as efficiently as possible. Now, the only way that you can actually unlock chests and make sure everything else is done is that you are at a high level in order for you to get these things done and harvest from a legendary monster in itself. So, with that being said, your goal with having this thrall or thralls is to make sure that you go to the highest leveling area possible and achieve as many journey points as possible at the same time. This does not consider for your base. This does not consider anything else. The side objectives that you would also be having is to make sure if you're going to be going onto a more mature server that is a official server is to claim as many pillars so that you can teleport to them and be able to go as efficiently as possible. Don't worry about your follower, because as soon as you go to the teleporter, you're able to go back with your follower if he is following you, not if he is standing on guard or anything else. So you got to make sure that your character that is following you as an NPC, thrall, bear, anything else that you would be having would be going in follow mode as soon as you go to the teleporter. After that, on top of everything else, you have to do a few other things. And you got to make sure that you are ready for combat no matter what. And especially as a solo player, you don't want to be mainly spec'd in encumbrance when you are in this stage of power leveling, because encumbrance does not matter. The size of your base does not matter. You are going to be in a few days' time, most likely a day if you do everything correct, to get to level 60 as quick as possible. A few other things that will help with this, of course, is to have armors and a bunch of other things, having a proper truncheon if you're going to be having more and more of these things to harbor. But you got to remember, if you are solo, you have to feed everybody so that they don't starve to death and they don't go into that other stage. I don't know if you're going into the same process, because again, at the end of the day, they use that as a healing factor to have everything else. And with the most current changes that you can only have 15 characters defending your base, it is not going to be very viable during this transition period on top of everything else. One of the biggest things, as soon as you get to level 60 and you're achieving these journey points, you're making sure that you have everything situated when it comes to Conan Exiles, is that at the end of 60, that's when you can set up the next steps that you need to do, which is called path routing. Path routing will be talked at a new video on top of everything else. But again, at that point, you'll be like, oh, so I need to do this to establish my farming. I need to do this to establish like all of my farming routes, my geo position. Make sure that you recon the server that you're on so that you know that that neighbor does not have foundation spam. And then it would be like, okay, now we can deal with this establishment. This server is okay, and we can actually do some progress. Of course, while you are power leveling, you are also should be reconning these servers so that you know where things are. You establish communication. You could make an alliance of some sort if you have the time for it, and you go on from there. Again, it's a very grindy process to get to a level 10 thrall, level 10 horse, a level 10 everything else. And you do not want to waste your resources in a fight, especially if you just got it to level 10 and it's a legendary thrall and they take the longest to level up and they're extremely difficult to level up on top of it, especially on an official server. I am not talking about private servers. Private servers have their own parameters when it comes to it, and because we are able to download mods for these types of private servers, you have to establish the rules from the private servers on top of it. So this will vary with power leveling in private servers, because based on their EXP gains that you'd be having. And normally on private servers, they have longer duration people when it comes to Conan Exiles because of one specific thing. They do not stay. A times 10 EXP server does not stay because they don't have the same financial investment per se as you would have by the amount of time that they have on the server, because the amount of time that they have to do the level up, get the EXP, make sure everything's good, that comes with a responsibility, and that responsibility is time. It comes down to it, you can have a mega base, you'll have all this other stuff, the server will start be laggy on top of everything else on a custom server, and that is because of engine limitations on top of everything else. That has been a main predominant factor in Conan Exiles, because the UE4 engine cannot handle everything on top of their own encoding process when it comes to path tracing as well as everything else. So again, it's based on your level of play that you'd be having on the server on top of everything else out. But that's a side subject. If you guys like this kind of content explaining on how the first stage that I'd be having for power leveling is going to be working, then the next one will be path routing and then building. And then there's also Fallout 76 content that I'll be putting out again, as well as 3D printing, Tesla content as well. If you guys like this, leave a comment, subscribe, leave the notifications on. Have a good one, everybody.